Smell that? The scent of freedom.
Lately, I've been spending a lot of time getting lost in the Gothic remake. But while I've been putting off that inevitable decision of joining the old camp, the new camp, or the herb-smoking cult that lives out in the swamp,
Yeah.
I got around to thinking, what makes Gothic so special? There's gotta be a good reason that 500,000 people lined up to drop $50 American, or their regional equivalent, to experience life as a no-name scrub trapped inside of a magical prison colony.
Welcome to the colony.
That's what we're going to investigate today. If you've been here before, we're glad to have you back, but if you're new to the channel, welcome to Two-Headed Hero. We talk about RPGs, immersive sims, and weird indie games, so if you're into any of that, we've got plenty more deep dive reviews and roundups just like this one. As always, touching the buttons down there, hype on mobile, and cheering us on in the comments really helps us out a ton. And if you want to help keep the fires burning in our cozy little tavern, we'll talk about that some more later on. But right now, we're going to take a look at what makes Gothic so special, as well as what the remake decided to fix and improve. We're also going to show off a few games that have decided to take their own shot at the Gothic-like crown. Because $50 is a lot of money. And hey kids, we have Gothic Remake at home.
What?
Thingamabob!
My name is Boss Sauce.
And I'm Rollincoons. And together, we are the Two-Headed Hero.
On the surface, this is just another early 2000s third-person action RPG. There's plenty of games just like that out on the Steam store or GOG. The intro movie here reveals a desperate kingdom mired in a war with vicious orcs, an inescapable penal colony that trades priceless magical ore, and finally, our hero, who's been given a message for the fire mages before being unceremoniously booted into this magically shielded prison. After a brief swim and a punch to the face, the hero wakes up to Diego's long exposition dump about the colony, its politics, and the basics of survival.
Why did you help me? Because you needed help? Otherwise, Bullet and his boys might have killed you. And I couldn't just stand by and watch.
These first few moments aren't really kind to the game. You're going to experience clunky controls, bizarre physics, stiff and janky combat, and a puzzling number of bad American accents.
What do you hunt?
Mostly scavengers. There's a lot of meat on them.
I guess that last one is kind of a selling point.
Make sure you get to the old camp. They're holding a pickaxe for you.
But experienced RPG heads have learned to look past such trivial hurdles in order to find the true magic within. Fortunately, RPG fans no longer need to settle for this 2000s version since the remake does a pretty good job of bringing Gothic into the modern age.
But I'm not interested.
So, what does the remake fix and improve? Well, the controls for starters, although I will say that dusting off the OG, that's the original Gothic, felt a little more intuitive than I remember it being. At the time Gothic was released, 3D movement was far from standardized, so OG features a variation on tank controls. The mouse can be used to look around, but this is largely a keyboard-based affair. Your familiar WASD cluster moves the hero forward, backward, and sidesteps, while Q and E turn your body left and right. Tab opens the backpack, Control picks stuff up and interacts with treasure chests and the like, and the spacebar performs a really goofy-looking jump. Getting into a fight means equipping a sword from your bag, hitting 1 to pull it out, then holding Control with the direction to block or strike in different directions. The experience is pretty strange, but it's more like trying to play a console game on a full-sized keyboard rather than a classic CRPG. Gothic is often cited as the first game to wear the Eurojank crown for several reasons, and this is definitely one of them. The controls are manageable once you get used to it, but they never really feel good. The remake does away with all this nonsense, offering up a more standardized control scheme that's well suited to a gamepad. It's still not perfect, some experimentation is required to get the attack timing of combos down, and there's occasional frustrating moments where you'll be locked into an animation as you accidentally go sit in a chair, or peek in a chest across the room instead of talking to the guy that's right in front of you. So in short, a little bit of the endearing jank still endures here, but it's a lot easier to cope with. The map is generally better as well, making it a little more useful without adding too much of that modern hand-holding we've gotten so cozy with over the last decade or so of open-world design. Although it's kinda weird that you can add markers and not label them. Hopefully I'll remember what all these dots mean later. Even the lockpicking game got an upgrade, replacing the bare-bones system from the first game with this super frustrating sliding puzzle thing that's already helped launch a cottage industry of lockpicking puzzle solver websites. Visuals and audio were also highly improved, of course. Not to say that the OG was a bad-looking game for its time. There's something to be said for that opening moment when you're coming down from the abandoned mine path and spot the massive spires of the old camp off in the distance. The version available on GOG comes pre-modded for widescreen and modern operating systems, and that's what we're looking at right here. But the remake really brings the colony to life. Look at the way insects zip above the water, how the leaves in the forest fall as you quietly tread through the underbrush, how the wind lashes the trees during a rainstorm as a flock of birds rush off for safety. Damn, Gothic, you got some gorgeous vibes. The colony's inhabitants are met with this same incredible detail, and the voice acting no longer sounds like you're sampling local theater from all across America.
Those pigs, I hate them. I can't tell you how much I hate them.
The script got punched up quite a bit while still keeping the spirit of each conversation relatively intact.
I saw a woman being sent down with the goods.
Yeah, the ore barons get everything they want.
I saw a woman come in with the goods before they threw me in. What's going to happen to her?
Let's put it this way. The ore barons get what they ask for.
Honestly, I was really impressed at the quality and care that they put into this audiovisual facelift, which made it even more funny that they kept in the same cheesy-ass death scream. So what makes Gothic so special? There are a lot of things that set it apart from every other RPG out there, but I've managed to boil this down to 4 main elements.
And
that's all you need to know.
The first is the game's heavy emphasis on social hierarchy. From the very first moment you drag yourself out of the mud, Gothic is telling you in big, bold letters that you can't survive alone here. Rather than setting the stage with tired RPG tropes like a quest from the king or saving the princess or whatnot, you're just a nobody looking for food, shelter, and protection.
You want me to fuck you up? Sure thing.
Like every other scrub in the colony, you won't be able to simply walk up to the head of the fire mages, letter in hand, and expect a cushy reward. You're going to need to ask the locals for advice, ingratiate yourself to the various factions, and work your way up through the ranks to even get in the same room as these guys.
How's it going, old man?
And at some point, you'll need to make an important choice to join one of the factions, which can turn the other ones completely against you. Gothic takes this a step further by gating every single useful skill behind this social element. At the outset of the game, the hero is weak, vulnerable, and unskilled. That's the second main element that makes Gothic feel so special. A helpless hero. You're not stepping into the role of a mighty knight or a seasoned veteran. You're just a guy. The role-playing equivalent of a level 0 NPC. The hero is clumsy and slow with a weapon. He has no magic powers, no special moves, and he's not even particularly acrobatic. I mean, look at this jump. First day jumping, buddy? Hell, he can only cook well enough to burn some meat over the fireplace. In any other fantasy game, this guy would be nameless tavern goer number 4, but here, he's placed front and center. You'll never learn how to properly swing a sword or skin a wild beast on your own, no matter how many experience points you manage to scrape up. Instead, you'll need to find an expert that already knows how to do these things and pay them a decent chunk of change just to teach you. On top of this, the trainer has to like you enough to offer their services. Sometimes cozying up to a trainer just means joining with the same faction to prove you're on their side. This can be kind of problematic if you've already decided to join a different gang, and it's entirely possible to lock yourself out of certain trainers, especially when it comes to the different schools of magic. Other times it might involve bribing a trainer with items or doing them a favor in advance. This leads to no small number of side quests, but the rewards for chasing these threads are great, and often this leads to having your own bespoke adventures along the way. The mining colony of Corinus feels like a living world, and this is the third pillar that Gothic builds itself upon. You'll need to find places to sleep and food to eat in order to stay healthy, but there's many ways to survive and thrive once you've established a bit of a foothold. Gather and sell herbs for the stoner cult out in the swamp, hunt vicious creatures and sell off their parts, or resort to more risky criminal endeavors. Khorinis is a prison colony where resources and tools are scarce, so it makes sense that it's ruled by its own set of unwritten laws. This ain't no Skyrim here. You can't just freely wander through the world as if it's your plaything, picking pockets and snatching up loot as you please. Take a step into someone else's bedroom and they'll draw steel. Lose a fight and you'll probably get robbed, waking up a little worse for the wear just a few moments later. Human labor is still the most precious resource in the colony, and just about everyone seems to hold this idea as a core truth, no matter which camp you hail from. Straight up killing a guy means that's one less pickaxe to chip away at that sweet, sweet magic ore, so murder is generally frowned upon. But even so, sometimes a good old-fashioned jail yard beatdown is the best way to assert your dominance and earn a few points with the higher-ups.
Wait, you look like you can't wait to mash some herbs.
Bastard! What's it to you anyway?
Just want to see you mashing.
This is a prison story, and that's the final important ingredient in Gothic's formula, an isolated realm. The feeling that you're trapped in a small part of a much larger world is central to the story and to the setting, and every other piece of the game's design extends to this. The scarcity of tools, the makeshift weapons, the rarity and expense of fresh clothing, the trading of ore nuggets as currency while coins are regarded as completely worthless. Forest paths are gated off by nests of vicious animals or roving gangs of bandits, or worse, and the colony is riddled with dangerous dead ends that lead only to misery and death. That beautiful blue glow that lights up the sky every night? It's a curse that keeps you walled inside of a nightmare. It's a constant reminder that you can't leave. But there's a huge advantage in experiencing such a world through the eyes of an everyman, and it's a feeling that often gets overlooked in the ever-growing realm of gaming. Each new skill you learn, each new weapon you find tucked away in some forgotten cave, each scrap of armor you slap onto your vulnerable hero feels like a giant step forward. After stacking many small successes for hours on end, as well as learning from your many failures, you actually start to feel like you've earned the name that you've been carrying around for this entire game. The hero ceases to be just a nickname. It becomes your role. It becomes your title. It becomes the word on the cover page of your chronicle. One thing the video game industry loves to do is rip off its successes. It's the whole reason we even have terms like Souls-like, or Metroidvania, or even Doom clone, one you might not have heard unless you're a living fossil like me. Gothic is credited as one of the biggest influences for some of the greatest and most famous games of our time, so there's gotta be a whole bunch of second-rate pretenders out there that came out in the following years, right? But that never really happened. So where are all the Gothic-likes? Well, that achievement belongs to Piranha Bytes themselves. Over their quarter-century run, they basically built a brand making games similar to Gothic. Hey, I enjoyed a lot of Piranha Bytes games. Well, really, the one game that they tried to make over and over, but I also can't deny that each new project was basically an attempt to put Gothic in a different costume. Risen, that's Gothic in a pirate costume. Elex, that's Gothic with the jetpack. Even Gothic's own sequels never quite recaptured that special X factor. While Gothic 2 is generally regarded as an all-around improvement over the first game, it takes place in Khorinis at large, losing the prison break storyline in favor of a more traditional tale about powerful dragons and a vengeful king. And Gothic 3, while proving to be more financially successful, was by all accounts a bit overambitious and a bit undercooked. I love this particular kind of quirky, janky, shoot-for-the-moon RPG that Piranha Bytes put out, and the news of the studio shuttering in 2024 was a heavy blow indeed. But there has to be somewhere else that you can get this type of experience, right?
Leave me alone, man!
Once again, we have to turn to the vast expanse of indie games for an answer. And behold, there's at least a few games out there that strive to bring that special zero-to-hero feeling that captured the attention of Gothic fans all around the world.
Crown not too tight on that head of yours.
Of Ash and Steel was developed by Fire and Frost, a small team hailing from Serbia and Russia, and published by TinyBuild. While the game had a rough launch in the fall of 2025, it has been patched up into a considerably more playable state. Of Ash and Steel is probably what I'd affectionately call Slavjank Gothic.
Gross.
It's clearly aiming far above its weight class when it comes to presentation, design, and game feel. The controller support is rough. Even in the main menu, you're going to be lugging a cursor around with the right stick. Come on, guys. And yet, this game is still brimming with potential. Deep world building, plenty of different systems, side quests and minigames to get lost in, and some incredibly silly dialogue, all of which serve to draw me further into its mysterious world.
You seem like a decent man, if stupid.
The game is set in a declining island kingdom and puts you behind the goofy grin of Tristan, cartographer for the Knightly Order of the Seven.
Seriously?
First day on the job, you oversleep due to a night of heavy drinking and show up late to your own secret expedition to the remote island city-state of... Greyshaft. There's so many jokes here I can't even land on one.
Thingamabob!
Anyway, under cover of darkness, longboats full of knights and supplies land within a tucked-away alcove along the coast of Greyshaft, and you find yourself shaking off seasickness on the sandy shores. What's this? Press A to ease suffering? Huh, if it was only that simple in real life. Anyway, after the last of Tristan's lunch is left on the beach, you're launched into a series of simple quests that are meant to help familiarize you with the game.
Squash those bastards underfoot!
The camp section is honestly very slow and painful to experience, and it threw me off the game completely the first time around. But I gotta say, coming back to it now, this definitely feels like the opening bits of Gothic. Locations are heavily gated off behind quests and dialogue.
No one leaves. Am I a prisoner or something?
There's also some painful attempts at humor here, but I was surprised at how natural the ebb and flow of conversation felt in general. A lot of personality is conveyed, even with the few character lines Tristan trades with each of his shipmates. Unfortunately, this also comes with a bit of Oblivion syndrome.
Ooh, look, a fly, buzz, buzz. Hey, look, everybody, I'm talking to a fly. Buzz, buzz, buzz.
Everyone looks kinda like they're standing in front of a green screen due to some weird depth of field effects, and right away you'll notice some funky-ass lip-syncing animation that makes the characters look kinda like they're in a Skibbity Toilet video. Beards shifting in and out of faces, dirt that moves independently of skin. But even with all the jank, this focus on dialogue serves as a demonstration to show how important the social hierarchy is throughout Greyshaft, just as it is in Gothic.
Do you have a rod in Emmett's pickle?
I don't know what you're talking about.
When you borrow a wooden leg from one of the sailors and duke it out with the cabin boy, you're going to get a tiny taste of the game's combat, which also feels fairly Gothic-like. Tristan is slow and unwieldy with a weapon at first. Even though he brags about having order training in the opening cutscene, he, well, completely sucks, and can't get through more than a swing or two before he needs to stop and catch his breath. So once again, we have a game that puts the helpless hero front and center. You'll be pretty much limited to dodge and stab until you can finally scrape together the XP and gold to visit a trainer that'll properly teach you some techniques, and to the game's credit, the skill trees on display here are quite deep. Tristan is only slightly less fragile than the nameless hero of Gothic fame, and even a couple of creatures can easily overwhelm him if you're not playing it smart. He's also not that fast, athletic, or steady on his feet.
I'll be damned!
And the game hammers this home in hilarious detail by making him slip in mud puddles or trip over logs when you least expect it.
Gross.
Okay, brilliant feature. I wish more games had you randomly take a dive when running across a tree root. This would work super well in like a survival horror or something like that. But wait. To make up for this clumsiness, you can stack crates and jump on top of them, so... Immersive sim confirmed? You'll spend the rest of the intro dealing with the various needs of the unhappy campers while gathering insight on the Order of the Seven from your conversations with Captain Gellert, who looks suspiciously similar to Bjorn Ironside, and you'll trade a few jokes with your knight buddy Surtur. Ah, Surtur. Just a dreamy smile and a faraway look in those easy slate gray eyes that see right through you. What a charmer.
Hear that, cartographer? Bad weather, volcanoes, sweaty men in a cramped cabin?
But come nightfall, the camp is ambushed by bloodthirsty bandits led by a mysterious mage. Your ship is blown into little tiny chunks, stranding you on the unfamiliar shores of Greyshaft. Miraculously, Tristan survives the assault and finds Surtur bleeding out near the medic tent.
But no worries. Things aren't really all that bad.
Right. Couldn't be better.
Surtur trusts you with an important secret missive meant for the Order's commander, but whether you try to save him or not, it's too little, too late. Those slate gray eyes are closed forever. Things quickly go from bad to worse. As you make your way towards the city at daybreak, you're ambushed by bandits and left with nothing but a pair of soiled shorts and a nasty concussion to your name. Bad luck, Tristan. Bad luck indeed. But as fortune would have it, a weird old creep tosses your unconscious body onto his apple cart and drags you off to his grimy fuck cabin in the woods. This is where the game begins in earnest, and paying back the grimy weirdo in manual labor shows off a bit of the crafting and gathering systems that help flesh out this game's living world. Of Ash and Steel has a lot of meat on the bone here. There's minigames and submenus for a lot of the skills like sharpening a blade or fishing up some dinner. A bare-knuckle brawling minigame called Ranta takes the place of the expected card or dice game and works sort of like a turn-based 2D fighting game, with success hinging completely on your command of strategy. There's also just a lot of tools and treasures and, well, stuff hidden around the game's cozy cabins and dark corners, just waiting for you to find it. Touching the wrong stuff is a crime, of course, and guards deal out punitive punishments when you're stealing anywhere near civilization.
You've broken the law and won't get away with it! Stop! You violated the law!
And the dangerous creatures roaming the forests aren't part of any sort of leveled list or anything like they would be in Skyrim.
Nope.
It's entirely possible and quite easy to run into a single hungry zombie that shrugs off all your dagger strikes, or an angry ogre that can flatten you in an instant. Your quest will lead you to the walls of Greyshaft's capital city, and you'll spend hours just trying to survive the journey there, relying on road signs and landmarks to find your way because you don't get a map until the second chapter in the game begins. Let me walk that back one more time. Tristan is a cartographer.
The Order's navigator, right? Not exactly. I'm a cartographer. Aren't those the same thing?
A map maker. And you don't start with a map. What the You can bribe or sneak your way into the city, but what I found was easiest is to just trick my way inside by doing a few jobs for a nearby logging camp and using your newly found lumberjack status as a sort of cover.
So where's your axe then, woodcutter?
Once you finally manage to drag yourself to the harbor district, your worst fears are made manifest. The Order doesn't believe you about the secret missive because, well, it was a secret, and without the scroll as proof, you can't get in to see the commander. Buying ship passage back to your homeland is also nearly impossible. The only sea captain willing to set course doesn't take credit.
To a starter, let's say 500.
A jester, are you? 1,000, my young friend. 5,000 gold.
The island's volcanoes have begun to erupt, releasing nearly impenetrable clouds of toxic ash that sickens or mutates the plants and wildlife, and his ship is the only one properly equipped to brave the conditions. So not only are you trapped in an isolated realm for at least 6 months, you'll be spending it battling garbage-tossing man-sized rats and really gross bugs that carry their young beneath their wings while you work to recover the secret missive from the Order or amass enough of a fortune to leave Greyshaft behind. I liked Of Ash and Steel much more than I thought I would, but the mixed reviews are rightly earned. This is not going to be a game for everyone due to the rough feel, quirky controls, and painfully slow opening chapter. A lot of the dialogue feels like unintentional comedy, but I enjoyed that for its own sake.
So, you taught that deck boy a lesson, Tristan. Keep up the good work.
Once you slow down and start exploring the game on its own terms, you might just find the magic in Greyshaft for yourself. But if you're looking for something that gets you right into the action, well, maybe you should look outward. Outward is a highly unusual RPG from Canadian studio 9 Dots. On the surface, this might seem like a weird choice to put in a video about Gothic, but these games share a lot of DNA. Third-person perspective, a world that doesn't care about you, a focus on survival, choices with consequences that can lock you out of entire story arcs, and some very tough opening hours. Outward takes place in the land of Aurai, a world scarred by a magical cataclysm. This corruption has rendered vast areas of the realm permanently altered, dangerously polluted, or completely uninhabitable. Fields of wavering purple grass and towering giant mushrooms are just as commonplace as toxic swamps and haunted ruins, and the landscape is filled with an alien, savage beauty. This uncontrolled magic corrupted the native wildlife in the process and brought forth a scourge of freaky-ass monsters that laid waste to humanity. All of this makes for some crazy creature designs and awesome world building. And then there's you, an unlucky sailor from the fishing village of Cirzo that's saddled with a massive blood debt due to a really bad call your ancestor made generations ago that resulted in a whole lot of dead villagers. Your ship wrecks just outside the village harbor, and you awaken in your family's lighthouse only to find out you're getting exiled from the village unless you can come up with a hefty 150 silver fine or earn a tribal favor from the elder. So right away, Outward hits you with a social hierarchy. There's time pressure to pay your dues, otherwise face being homeless, and there's a strong motivation to fit in with the first of the game's factions, the Blue Chamber. There's a few ways to go about this initial quest, whether it's looting dungeons, scrounging up trash and trinkets in the dangerous tunnels beneath the village, or saving one of the other shipwreck survivors, just to name a few. Failing to complete the quest in 5 in-game days renders you effectively homeless for a huge chunk of the game, meaning you'll be roughing it in the wilderness outside the gates, unable to return, unable to buy any supplies, or even get a safe night's sleep until you travel to a different city entirely. Rather than Gothic's gated bubble of a play space, Outward's living world actually opens up into several large, highly explorable areas. At first it seems like it lacks the same feeling of being trapped in an isolated realm, until you realize that the remaining bastions of civilization are few and far between. That same feeling of loneliness you got in the colony soaks in here as you set up your tent in another dark cave mouth or forest cove, with only a few scraps of jerky and foraged berries in your belly, hoping against hope that you'll be able to rest long enough to heal your wounds and repair your sword without freezing to death or being interrupted by some sort of deadly, unimaginable horror. The living world of Our Eye is less concerned with criminal enterprise, kissing the feet of underlings, or passing out fat blunts than the social ecosystem of Corinus.
Can I interest you in a herb roll?
Instead, Outward concerns itself with the day-to-day necessities of survival. Food, water, and shelter fuel your journey, and going without any of these for too long results in heavy debuffs or even death. You'll need to set up safe campgrounds, dress properly for the weather, sleep in guard shifts, and build cooking fires in order to survive in a hostile realm where seasons change without warning and the long darkness of night holds unspeakable dangers. Maps only show major landmarks, not your position, so it's up to you to play amateur navigator and figure out where you stand based on the lay of the land. Despite this focus on outdoorsmanship though, the social elements are still important here.
Now pay attention to what your body tells you.
The faction system is central to the plot. Picking one side or another results in entirely different quest chains. The Blue Chamber might feel like the path of least resistance and is filled with capable warriors and scholars, but rejecting your village to head abroad can reward you with the traps and technology offered by the heroic kingdom of Levant, the secrets of Soroborian mysticism, or the powerful tempestuous magic wielded by the holy mission of Alat. But long before these pathways open up to you, you'll be just another helpless hero. A shipwrecked bum wearing scraps of clothing that has to fight off giant chickens for a few handfuls of berries. Fights feel weighty, even a bit Souls-like at first, but even the opening moments of a battle play out so much differently here. When you're spotted, you'll need to drop your backpack because you can't dodge roll around with a bag full of camping gear strapped onto your butt. If there's a torch in your hand, you'll have to make the quick decision to swap to your shield or risk a battle in the darkness. Your hero can roll around and backstep and commands a few simple attack combos right off the bat, but any advanced techniques are an absolute mystery until you can find and pay off the right trainer. Exhaustion is a death sentence in the heat of battle, so keep a careful eye on that stamina meter. It's a generous pool, but it runs out quickly in a drawn-out fight. Even the game's approach to healing is unique. The more you exert your mana, health, and stamina pools, the less you'll be able to recover, at least until you pitch your tent for the evening or chug down one of the rare and valuable potions. Gotta give respect where it's due to a game that has such a hardcore design philosophy, but in such a hostile world. How do you get good? Well, you get tricky is how. Laying down a gauntlet of deadly traps helps tip a fight in your favor before it even begins. Many of the beasts here hate each other just as much as they hate you, and it only takes a little shove to bait them into infighting while you pick off the remnants. All this is in service of the almighty silver coin. After looting a bag full of bandit treasures and creature parts and selling them off in town, maybe, just maybe, you'll earn enough silver to begin your training. Outward has no experience points at all, which is a pretty surprising move for an RPG. Only the power of cold hard silver and a patient teacher can earn you the skills and training that you desire, so whether by trade, trophies, or scavenging, you'll be concentrating hard on the accumulation of wealth. These trainers are scattered all over the different corners of the realm, making each new unlocked skill feel like a massive reward at the end of a journey. Then there's the most coveted and powerful abilities locked behind breakpoints. You start the game with 3 breakpoints, and once they're spent, they're gone forever. Hardcore. Maybe not as hardcore as becoming a mage though, which is a full quest chain on its own. Earning the right to spark fires with your mind means climbing up a mountain and surviving a deadly gauntlet of traps and creatures. Upon reaching the conflux at the mountain's peak, you'll need to sacrifice a chunk of your vitality permanently in order to gain a mana pool. This feels like such a brilliant idea that works really well within the game's lore, and adding this extra gravitas to the decision of chasing the arcane arts is an excellent payoff for the player. But nothing else sets Outward farther apart than its take on death and failure. In standard mode, you get narratively dragged off to faraway places when an enemy strikes you down, and your story just picks up and continues somewhere else on a nearby corner of the map. Digging your way out of that situation can be tough, especially if you're low on supplies or in danger of losing out on a timed quest, for example, so death is not without consequence here. But for every scenario that has you captured by raiders or dragged into a hive of giant insects, there's another one where you're rescued by a friendly Samaritan. This narrative approach to disaster really seals the deal for me when it comes to role-playing. Each setback just becomes another story beat in your hero's epic tale. And if that's still not brutal enough for you, Hardcore mode introduces a chance for your character to permanently die with every single defeat, deleting them from your hard drive forever. There's one final feature that truly sets Outward apart, not just from Gothic, but from every other game in this video. This is the only Gothic-like that you can play in co-op. Most of my time in Ori was spent adventuring side by side with a trusted partner, and after 130 hours of exploring these forgotten shores, I strongly feel like the game is more properly tuned to a 2-player experience. Having someone at your back that can pick you up when you fall is an excellent safety net against the vicious horrors of the realm, and barely scraping your way through a deadly encounter together is a rush of relief. If this little taste of the world has gotten you interested, Outward Definitive Edition is an absolute steal these days, and doubly worth your time if you bring along a buddy. Speaking of, if you're looking for another helpless hero to drag you through Ori, we have a Discord open to the public where we chat about all sorts of stuff, play some tabletop RPGs, keep an eye out for deals and freebies, and even host some community game nights every once in a while. Our Patreons get a special heroic role, so if you want to help us keep the fires going in our cozy little tavern, or if you just want to hang out and shoot the breeze with a good group of like-minded folks, maybe go check it out. Not long ago, an indie developer asked, what if Gothic, but pixels? This first game from German studio Just 2D takes everything that made Gothic special and kinda squashes it into the second dimension, while adding plenty of its own personality. But instead of Gothic's bubble prison, Drova takes place in a strange, isolated realm surrounded by a mysterious death fog. Like everyone else in your village, you're broke, hungry, and cold. But one fateful day, the village warriors return from a raid, bringing along a mysterious red crystal covered in strange runes. The druids of the village, sensing portents, snatch away the crystal immediately and hide it from the rest of the residents. But in the middle of the night, your mangy dirt farmer manages to catch them sneaking off into the woods and decides to give chase. Turns out that the druids are trying to open a path to Drova, a legendary promised land that turns out to be anything but. Things go wrong and escalate quickly. Piggy spirits try to drag you off into the beyond. The master is killed by creatures from the deadly fog. With her dying breath, the master's apprentice fires off a last-ditch spell to push you through the veil and into the realm beyond. So there you are, a helpless hero, armed with a little more than a tree branch, who's given the impossible task of delivering the red crystal to the druids in the legendary city of Nemeton, located somewhere in the wilderness of Drova, in order to save their village from certain starvation. Right away, you'll see that the world of Drova is brimming with detail. This is top-notch pixel art here. Waterfalls flow into reflective streams. Grass sways as you brush past. The wind, the rain, the glow of fireflies at night. This game is gorgeous. The living world that Drova creates is just as deep as Gothic's, although a lot flatter, and this game gives the player the gift of an inspection mechanic that allows us to gather some additional context around the world. You'll need to use your actual real human meat eyes to check out anything that seems out of the ordinary first. But then, scrunching up those eyelids with the push of a button lets your hero discover and follow footprints, examine clues in the environment, and search suspicious locations for hidden loot. The overall result feels a lot more organic than something like the Witcher vision featured in Geralt's exploits, and brought me back to an earlier time of good old adventure gaming.
I can't pick that up. No, really, I can't pick that up. Are you dense? I can't pick that up.
Outside of that, cooking, fishing, and crafting, and mining, and everything else goes on to form important pieces of the survival puzzle here. Simply surviving feels like quite an accomplishment here, and at first your hero is going to be stuck swinging sticks at wolves and giant rats, hoping to come out on top so that their delicious meat can be harvested for a meal. Combat does wonders at capturing that Gothic feel. At the outset, your strikes are pitifully weak and awkward. Early on, you'll run into some helpful lumberjacks that demonstrate how to combo your swings with proper timing and inflict stance damage to momentarily stun your victims, which lets you create some distance or just move right in for the kill. Melee weapons all have distinct reach, speed, and combos, as well as unique secondary attacks, and you'll learn to appreciate the advantages of them all before too long. Ranged weapons require more skill and planning to use properly, and some even have to be periodically reloaded from a quiver, which adds yet another layer of strategy you'll have to consider mid-fight. Fortunately, you can hot swap between two weapon sets with a single push of a button, depending on your needs. Then, there's the focus attacks. Basically, landing some damage builds up this meter right here, and once it hits a breakpoint, you'll be able to pull off a signature move, like a quick dash or a vicious cleave. These special moves are learned, found, or purchased from NPCs, and the entire system definitely adds another dimension to the combat, especially since some enemies can pull off moves of their own. Usables like magic scrolls and throwing knives can mean the difference between a tough victory and a crushing defeat. The whole system has a similar kind of dancing cadence to the later Souls games, and I think the game is all the better for it. And if you look closely, there's one more nod to Gothic here. Human enemies will often just knock you down and rob you blind, giving you another chance at life once you pick up your shattered pride off the floor. Gaining strength works nearly identically here as it does in Gothic, save for certain stat requirements gating off certain skills. This means that you'll need to find and pay off trainers that can teach you worthwhile skills, some of which will only teach members of their faction, others which have a bit more of a mercenary attitude. During your search for the city of Nemeton, you'll meet loggers, gladiators, miners. Turns out there's a great number of unlucky villagers that have all ended up on the wrong side of the fog, just like you. So it becomes your task once more to navigate a social hierarchy. Shake the right hands, grease the right palms, even pick the right pockets to try and find a way home. Drova might just be the best Gothic-like in this entire video. It's definitely the one that follows the blueprint most closely and retains much of the same spirit that Piranha Bytes fans grew to love over the years. Anybody that enjoys an old school RPG would be remiss to pass this one up. It's an adventure that comes with my highest recommendation, and it'll definitely have me coming back for more. Just as soon as I finish this off. It's been a long time I've been smoking. Gothic is a bit of a curiosity. It did more than just define the entire career arc of its now defunct developer. It firmly entrenched itself as a cult classic for players all over the world. It's interesting to think that a game that carries so many heavy themes about constraints ended up being so revered. Gothic constantly dangles things that you can't do just out of reach of the player. You can't fight effectively, at least until someone shows you how to swing a sword.
Don't go thinking everyone's gonna be so friendly, kid.
You can't get in front of that gang leader, at least not without buttering up his underlings. but it still ended up being one of the finest examples of player agency that we've ever seen in the RPG space.
And that's all you need to know.
In general, the future doesn't look too bright for games right now. Layoffs show no signs of slowing down, and several of my favorite studios, known for making strange and quirky AA level experiences, have closed their doors for good. Even though I was very sad to see Piranha Bytes shutter back in 2024 after a quarter century of, well, basically making a bunch more games that all kind of played like Gothic, I'm glad that its legacy still lives on in the RPGs that it inspired. Gothic influenced scores of modern RPGs, whether it's their conversation systems, their combat, or even their progression. And I'm sure over the course of this video you've come up with a few examples of your own that took what Gothic started and ran away with it. So let me know about those down in the comments. In the meantime, we'd like to give thanks to all the brave champions that help support our quest, such as Wolfgang Bristol, Yaroslav Rybaki, Jim DiFrancesco, Vulpes, Adam Uselman, Amelie McNamara, James Blake, Cameron Froment, Dominic Nguyen, John Williams, Mahogany God King, and our YouTube members, Godspeed7, Vinny2142, Muggs McGurk 812, and all the rest. Truly, you are all the most gracious of supporters. If you want to join us around the tavern table, head over to our Patreon. There's some goodies in there for those who donate at $5 and above, and we'll shout your name out loud in the credits. Clicking those buttons down there also helps us out way more than you know, and lets YouTube know that you want to see more videos just like this one.
Just want to see you mashing.
And if you're still hungry for more RPGs, why don't you take a look at what's popping up on the screen right now? Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next Two-Headed Hero.